Welcome to Pigeon River Farm, doing farming right. I'm Robert Brown, the owner of Pigeon River Farm. Thank you for viewing. Well, good evening. In this episode, we're going to talk about a video I did way back in January.
You tell me what's going on. This is a very interesting situation. Other than I guess we've all been here before, we just don't have good documentation. So this is an experiment running.
Not sure where we were going to go with this. It was extremely warm out. Coming up the winter itself, we only had a couple weeks, virtually 2 weeks of cold weather. Other than it was the most mild winter in recent history. Now we know that back in 1800s similar things had happened, and there was one in the 1930s. But for us, not having a lot of experience with an extremely warm winter, I want to tell you the outcome. And it was actually surprising to me. So things that we noticed was we were extremely early with all of the crops. Everything as far as pasture-wise was 2 to 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Ahead of the earliest schedule we could ever remember. Also, the vigor within the plants themselves, they grew very, very aggressively. I noticed nothing different in wildlife and or our livestock. That seemed to be completely based on temperature of the day, so there was no changes. But we did notice that the growth has been phenomenal. We had a very droughty winter, virtually no rain or snow throughout the winter. So we went into the spring with a deficit, a serious deficit of moisture. But right when everything started to grow, that late March, early April time period, the rain started coming in. And now we've had a little above average rain here coming up on June. Well, what's interesting about this is the response of the plants. Once they got that moisture, they really took off, and since they were ahead of schedule to start with, they really grew. And we are ready to cut hay here. Normally I cut the second to third week in my particular way I operate my farm, second or third week of June, and I am ready to cut hay. Just need to get the fields to dry out enough. But an observation, one thing that I notice is we have bugs. We have crazy amount of obnoxious bugs. We have ticks that we've never seen at this level around the farmstead. I've got over 400 layer birds plus peacocks and so on that normally eradicate virtually all the ticks. The ticks are as thick around the buildings because the chickens obviously can't keep up with it. That's number one we noticed. Number two is mosquitoes are unbearable, and we must have a different species of mosquitoes. They're much larger. So they are being a really annoyance to us and the livestock. So there is some effects. What I find about the most interesting of all was our trees, our fruit trees. I figured for sure, positively, the flowers would get a frost on them and they would be done. That was not the case. Somehow we never hit the freezing point once they started to bud. So throughout the month of May, mid-May on, we never went into a freeze mode. We normally in a late, and virtually every spring, it's always that danger. Well, the flowers come out before, but these flowers came out earlier and still missed any kind of freeze. So we should have a good fruit crop also. Well, anyways, I thought I'd just share this in my observation, and I was not sure. Now I'm sure. Observation, we'll see what fall brings, but right now that mild winter actually had a very positive effect on the farm. So I guess we'd say I stand corrected for my concern. Well, thank you and have a most wonderful evening.